Coming to you live from sunny Arizona. The Steve Root Show is now live. Go.
People, this is my camera right here. I knew that. So do you guys, because you're looking at me right now. Today is going to be interesting for a variety of reasons. I want you to know that I've been getting some really good letters in. There goes Whippet, following Mama. Goodbye, Whippet. The letters that have been coming in are getting better and better. They're the kind of letters that deserve to be read online. And once I start reading some of these, you'll know why. In fact, there's 3 pages of letters here that came in, and most of them are so good, it's almost going to be difficult not knowing which one not to read. So most of them are going to be read. We got some figure drawing going on today. Today is going to be a drawing of the kid here. This is the keyed. We have the camera on the keyed. We're getting the camera on the keyed. We have a lot of cameras around here. Hello, Whippet. Take 5. Anyway, this is what I'm going to be drawing today. I'm going to be using this, what do they call this, a jumbo jet black pencil. And you can see I sharpened it really good. So it's a very thick pencil. It won't work in electric pencil sharpeners. So you got to hand do it with a razor blade, but be careful. Parents are watching. So that's going to be coming up a little later on. I don't know if you can see in the drawing board here, we have a new producer at work today. She's getting the ropes down here. Can we show them what's on the drawing board here, Mr. Producer? Yeah. Meanwhile, I can relax here. Oh, here's my latest thing. I've been forced to drink water, more water, because I can't stand water. So I take one yerbil, 1 water. 1 yerbil, 2 waters. They're always on me about water. So can we see what's going on here now? So this is visible right now?
Yes.
And is this visible on the drawing board? Yes. I'm going to show you this in a second here. This is some of the training I do when you guys aren't looking. I do a lot of training. The training is just part of my my routine, but it's not a routine. It's a necessary implementation to avoid getting bad. Okay, that's how I describe it. This book is coming along very well. Is this on this camera right here?
Yeah.
Yes, of course it is. We keep adding new stuff because it was going to be a different version of the animated Nexus, but we thought this is not what the book is. It's about figure drawing. So I sat down, did tons of new drawings, and very soon, to wrap it up, I'll be doing all the text to complement all the pictures in the book. So the goal, the idea behind this is to impart as much knowledge as I possibly can to you guys that are wondering about these things and keep asking me about them, so that you no longer need to rely on someone else to know how to practice or get better. You'll have this book and 100 other books to work from, and then the rest is thankfully up to you, the way it should be. Community announcements, let's get those out of the way, and then we'll show you the good stuff here, okay? So we'll get to the letters here. August 16th, community announcement. See, it's right there. Nexus Return to Earth. We are 3 weeks away from the launch of our next crowdfunding campaign. Nexus Return to Earth Studio Preview Edition. This is a behind-the-scenes deal that will show you the rough pencils, the in-between stages, all the way up to the current inks of each page that I've got done so far. And I'm up to, God, I'm up to 25 right now. Or is it 26? 27? So how can you guys help? You guys want to help? Here's how to do it. Sign up early and help vote on stretch goals, exclusive rewards, and you'll get the latest updates regarding this campaign at steverude.com/RTE. I assume you all know what that means. I don't. Return to Earth, right, of course. Patreon, we got some new members right here. Always nice to see new members, especially if they're female. Welcome new members, $5 members. We got a guy named John Helbron, and a guy that is obviously from the Middle East, whose last name is Hishram, and Terry LaBrose. Do we know Terry? That's not the Terry we know from France, France. Well, anyway, thanks, guys. Thanks for your contributions. And we get a free member from Jim. We'll just give Jim a pat in the back. We're keeping the full Nexus pages, scripts, and lettering over our Patreon for our Patreon members. This is how we keep creating and sharing the complete process with you. So essentially, it works like you expect it to work. The more you're able to donate to the cause here, the more you're able to see of all the behind-the-scenes work that's going on with my latest 100-page magnum opus, which is a third of which I've done so far. The Coming of Gormando, The Battle for Thune World, and then Return to Earth. And Return to Earth is just I've had some people look over the script, and they were quite complimentary. They're saying, "Geez, you really floored it this time." But of course, we know that. How to Draw books. We have a new draft of the How to Draw books, and that is the where is that? Is that down here? No, it's not. The How to Draw book next. Oh, that's yeah. I just showed them that. That's the new draft. This is the How to Draw book right here, but it's actually going to be called Figure Drawing. How to do Steve Rude's Figure Drawing from a veteran illustrator. Sounds good to me. Books are set to be shipped in September, and check out this book. It's going to be cool. steverude.com/how to draw and pre-order your copy. So pre-order your copy, and we'll all be happy. You know, I think I need a millionaire. Are there any millionaires out there? I know what you guys are all about. Millionaires are people that have so much money to burn that you need to get rid of it for tax purposes. So I'd like to suggest a suggestion. I'll give you my address, and you send me $100 billion, and we can call this off right now. Everything will be settled, and you guys can just lay back and just relax and get your stuff for free. August 16th, this week's comments from fans from last week's live stream. Jim Vanuski, or something like that. Here's his letter. I worked at the art department, storyboard comps department at Leo Burnett for a couple decades. I think that's a Chicago outfit. My old boss and I got on the phone a couple years ago, and he'd seen some of my comics work. And Jim is now in his 70s. God bless him. And he said, his boss said, "How come you still want to do all that work anymore?" Referring to comics, because we know how much work it is. And Jim just said, "If I don't, I'm just another guy named Jim." Eric Stan Bilecki, that's his name. Sort of. I had the Williams book. God, I forgot his first name. It is not Al Williams. Jesus Christ. Okay, so the guy that did Roger Rabbit and did all that kind of stuff, I'm just blanking right now. It's pathetic, I know. He said, I had the Williams animation book once. A brilliant animator. Roger Rabbit, Jessica Rabbit. It had to do with him. Yes, it did. I think he animated the baby in that movie, probably. Not an easy job, especially if you need to do your own in-betweening. All the good ones from Disney did, Art Babbitt and so on. You know, animation is like comic books. It's broke down to a process. In comic books, we work in individual stages. One guy does this, well, another guy's doing that. And hopefully if we all kind of overlap each other, that's the way we get books out in time. And back in the 60s and the 50s and the 40s, every book came out in time.
Clark versus Richard Williams.
Richard Williams, thanks, Steve. Richard Williams, of course. But don't call him Dick. So Richard Williams, where was I? What was I talking about? Mr. Producer says, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, well, comic book in stages. We did this stuff for a reason because it enabled books to get out in time. But starting with the 90s, no books got out in time. Problem one, the people doing the books. Problem two, the companies that accepted late work. That's what it comes down to. So once you let those gates open, it's all over, people. It'll never go back to the way it is. It's only up to the people that have the kind of mindset that this work has to get done. And if you were working back in the 50s and 60s, and you were told that work had to get in, you would adjust yourself really fast to that. So all you 90s slackers, you would have been in a lot of trouble in the 60s. Animation, you know the way it breaks down. It's a mill for good and bad reasons. If I get my show, I'm going to cross-purpose a lot of the people, the crew. If somebody wants to do this, and they're normally saddled with a job of storyboards, they can go over and do layouts. If they want to do that, fine, let them do that. If they want to do some coloring, fine. We're not going to be so rigid in my Nexus show, were it ever to be done, to kind of cancel the freestyle atmosphere that I'm looking for. And hopefully, it just makes sense. If you have a happy crew, you're going to have happy people wanting to work really hard and really well to get the show up to standards that they're going to expect from you. Stephen Pierce, I still like the black and white comics in the ink on the page. My own stories and ideas, even if there are no magazines to print, referring to his, I guess, it seems better than note-taking and every line is pondered. Let me think about that. I guess all he's saying is he likes the traditional work. You know, I remember when not me, everyone else on Earth started converting to digital. And suddenly we went from all this wondrously gigantic, large cardboard boxes that came like this in the mail to all the companies. And they would have the best time ripping those things open and seeing this great big 2x3 foot glorious original painted art, illustrations for their work. That's the stuff I always turned in. And then it stopped. Why do you think it stopped? Because no one turns in original work anymore. I was asked not to do it after a while, but I hung in there as long as I could. They started telling me near the end of my tenure at DC, they said, you don't have to send it in anymore, Steve. You don't got to send in your originals. I said, well, do you mind if I do anyway? They said, no. I said, I want you guys to see what original art looks like, because in a year, you're not going to see any of it anymore. You're just going to see something through a computer that you press a button for. I tell you. Craig Phillips, I can pronounce that name. Here's what he says about AI. In the age of encroaching AI art, shortcuts, laziness, reliance on prompts and software, and no willingness to do any hard work, artists like Steve Rude, this is going to be embarrassing, are a treasure and a breath of fresh air, even though he's been doing this for decades. Yes, I've been doing it for decades, and yes, I will always be someone who is working on the stuff you see here, with a pencil in my hand and a brush, for the rest of my life. K-Max. What was that movie? K-Max. What was that movie where... K-Pax, yeah. If you've never seen the movie K-Pax, The Secret of Life is in there, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. If any of you guys have seen that movie, and know what I'm talking about, write in. I want to hear about it. But yeah, the literal secret of life is in that movie near the end. Of course, guys like me pick up on it very quick. And you guys being my fans will do as well. K-Mac says, what's exhausting is everything else and everything that keeps you from doing the work you love. So if I could expound upon that, what's exhausting is everything else you have to do that is not related to what you want to do. Jimmy Bassel, he wrote in and said, this is kind of cool right here. He's, where is he? He's over in, I think he's in New York, of all places. Jimmy says, I watch your videos at 5:15 a.m. Boy, that's dedication. On my daily subway trip into the city. And he goes, this is his job. He drills steel 200 feet in the air for a sweltering 8 hours. Now that's the man dear to my heart. I would absolutely love to be able to make a living drawing and being as talented as you, Steve. Thanks for all you do. While I wish I listened when they said, do what you love and then find a way to get paid doing it. I believe that's one of my quotes. See what I mean about letters? The letters that are coming in, they're very thoughtful. Those are the ones I really like to respond to here. And they do me a lot of good to hear this feedback too. So it's obviously two ways. Some wise guy wrote it and said a comment about the Twilight Zone, the Willoughby. Willoughby, next stop, Willoughby. Stop at Willoughby, my favorite episode. Some of you guys know that everything I ever learned in life came from Twilight Zone, as well as a few other shows too. Ooh, okay, so this guy is giving me a break right here. Scott Frashina. He goes, I know what you mean about regarding drawing while an audience watches. It's not supposed to be performance art. So he's trying to lessen the pressure on me to feel like I've got to entertain people at all times. Is it a performance art? I guess it is in front of a camera, but I always feel like I got to keep you guys entertained. I'll try to get over that. So Mr. Fizz writes in. Oh, well, he's even making it even more clear. You don't have to feel the pressure of talking while you're making art. You can make the art and it does the talking for you. It's unbelievable what you can do. I love the t-shirt. He's probably talking about the Nexus t-shirt. You know, someone else told me that. In fact, the guy that just wrote in there, Steve Klopfer, he wrote me a very nice critique about you don't have to feel like you've got to be talking the whole time you're painting. He says, let the magic do the work for itself. And that's something I never forgot because it was a very good piece of advice. Okay, we're going to talk about animation from a guy that wrote in here, Eric Knopf. I had to do this type of animation for an art class. I'm assuming he's talking about, 24 frames a second kind of stuff that I'm doing with Nexus. Not as easy as it looks. You had to consider 24 frames per second, which means for every single second, ... You put the ... dots in there. That's 24 spickle-spitting drawings. If you ever want to find out if you can get tired drawing, that would be how to do it. So that's another thing from the Richard Williams books that I just glom onto. It's such a telling quote, which I've mentioned before, but I'll say it again. For you guys that never heard it the first time, some guy wrote to William Richardson and said, this is a lot of work in animation. It's really a lot of work. And Richard Williams writes back and says, buddy, animation is nothing but work. So he silenced the critics just like that with that little phrase right there. Comments from previous videos. He wants me to talk about Kurt Swan. I met Kurt Swan like I met almost everybody from that age. And that is due to my age, having met all these people. We're going back to the 80s now, the early 80s, mid 80s, where San Diego Comic-Con was fun. It was not overwhelmingly crowded. It was crowded just enough, and everyone had a party every night. All the companies, Marvel, DC, our company, Capital, then First Comics and Eclipse, and everybody. DC threw great parties, way better than Marvel. They were so cheap. But this is a time in the 80s, when the 80s hit, that everyone was one big happy family. And we would crash each other's parties, and we would all mingle together, and we'd all talk shop, and we'd all talk deals. And it was new, it was incredibly exciting. And we were all bonded as an industry should be. Now it's all been dispersed, and I don't see a time when it's ever going to get back together like that. But just the fact that I lived through that time, and the award ceremonies, and one of my incredible memories from San Diego was this was in the late 80s, and very short, super nice guy, was in charge of the Russ Manning Newcomer Awards, which I had won one year, and almost swallowed my throat that day. He goes, "Steve, would you like to get up there in front of 2,000 people and give away the award?" And I said, "Yeah, I think I would." And yeah, as you guys know, just like when I do this stream here, I don't premeditate anything, because my mind doesn't work like that. Premeditating things for me just messes up my head. So I have to just completely wing it. Yeah, I take a few notes and, this kind of stuff, and kind of have an idea of what I might do. But generally, I can't read from cue cards. What is this? Okay. So I got up there, and I looked out in this crowd. There was thousands of people. Everyone from the industry was there, and I mean everyone. The golden age, the silver age, everybody was there. And I looked out in that crowd, and I suddenly knew what to say. And I said, what did I say? I said, "What an honor it is for the people of my generation to be in a crowd of people that produced every comic book that ever inspired us to become comic book artists." And I looked over in the crowd, and I saw Vern Hogarth, of all people, with this big smile in his face. Most people did not get along with Vern Hogarth. I got along with him wonderfully because I didn't argue with him. But to see that smile on his face made my year. Guy doesn't smile much, but he did that night. And I'm sure a few other people were doing that too. But remember that of all the people, I just remember zooming in on Vern Hogarth with that wild, incredibly satisfied smile on his face, because I acknowledged, not me. That's not what you do. You acknowledge other people, and that's what I did, and that's where the smile from Vern Hogarth came from. So Kurt Swan was a gentleman, just a total gentleman. I remember, these days are so incredible. After the Inkpot Awards, or was it before? We were all just hanging out, getting ready for dinner, and Kurt Swan was in a separate room, a little wing of the hotel, and he was doing he had a big easel up with a big, piece of drawing paper, tablet up there with paper must have been like this, and this beautiful white paper, and he was drawing Superman for everyone. And I just remembered how incredible it was, how moving it was, how lucky I was to see the things that soon enough would all be gone, because they're all gone now. All of them, they're gone. But I met them all, and they're in my memory banks where they count. And I'll never forget them. The things they taught me, the things they showed me, the things they said to me are all packed away exactly where they most belong, right here and up here. And I transfer those to the drawing board when I draw. Sterling Clark says, "Steve, you, my friend, are old school to the core. Love you, man." Matt Carroll, imagine getting a chance to browse his studio, just browse. I'd even put my hands behind on my back so I wouldn't touch anything. I just look. Matt Carroll writes in again, "I found a free comic book day version of Steve's comic at a thrift store." The nerve. I've been searching ever since, and I've opened up a whole new world of color, new art, and an amazing new galaxy of adventure. I instantly fell in love with all of the Nexus work, and I continued to look for more and find more Rude Dude gems. You're welcome. Guys, this is what I do. This is what I love. And when you can't fake something you love. One of the things about things you love, I think there's a quality of really hard work that has to go into it, because the harder the work, the harder you have to work to achieve it, the more benefits come internally from that. And you guys all know that from being the hard workers you are out there. And Lee Brown Media writes in and says, right on, Steve, I use synthetic brushes too for inks, watercolor, and acrylic. I found sables for inks deteriorate rapidly, not the synthetics, and I never looked back. What, there's more? Good Lord. Let's set this aside for right now, okay? I think you guys are getting restless. Flowhard, you're going to have to move here. Got some stuff to show you right here. These pages, now don't tell anyone because I'm a little embarrassed about this, but I'm kind of doing these pages with not really tight pencils, and I'm realizing there's a problem with that. If I'm going to do tight anything, it needs to be the things that you expect to be tight: the heads, the hands, the figures, all that kind of stuff. But a lot of it, I just kind of go in there with ink and start inventing stuff. There's a good thing about that, and there's a bad thing about that. Bad thing is I have to put whiteout over these pages right here. Mr. Producer thinks that's pretty funny. So I realize, Rude, cut the crap. You need to slow down. Force yourself to slow down, because my temperament right now wants me to go fast. It wants me to do what I do in my sketchbooks or these drawings right here, where I just kind of casually wing it and use all my knowledge to pull off something good. But it's very double-edged. So the whiteout you see in here, in case you're wondering, I use this kind of whiteout right here. I don't use the Dr. Martin stuff, this pure gouache, because it's stupid. When you try to put ink over gouache, it turns into mud for the most part. So I use this Deleter No. 2 white. Look for it at a Japanese art store near you. This has got something different than this gouache, because it dries pretty permanent. So I've got to go over here, and once I put the white on it, if it's too caked up, I got to go like this and scrape it down a little bit, because I don't like texture. I don't like a big mound of stuff. So that's what I got to do. Oh boy. Okay, so lesson for today: don't do what I do. This guy mentions that, well, I wasn't going to do that. Okay, so here's something I want to show you here. This is what I do in my spare time right here, guys. So I have the time of my life getting these frame grabs off the TV. God, what I learned about animation and how to animate from doing this is just the most satisfying thing in the world. I just have the best time with this stuff. But and often when I see these kind of scenes from my favorite cartoon show, Space Ghost, I look at it and say, how can I adapt that to Nexus? Well, before I did that, I did a couple of versions of my own Space Ghost right here. Now, Alex always outdoes me here, Alex Toth. But just for practice, I do this kind of stuff. Just for fun. And it is fun, because doing art is fun. Here's another one right here where he kind of tilts his head. This is the cool thing about smartly planned animation. He went from what I just showed you to this head tilt right here. And that's all you need to keep things alive. Or in this case right here, this is a held cell where it's moved up and down on the pegs like he's floating. And this is kind of my version of that. Now, I had to redraw the body twice, but you don't have to do that. You keep the body as it is, and you just move the head smartly, and it looks like someone's alive. And you have the sound effects, and you have the dialogue, and the music. So all that keeps things alive. In the meantime, there's another one here. Okay, so here's another Space Ghost thing that I actually adapted for Nexus. Love this shot. Primo Alex Toth from 1966. He was on fire back then. God, this guy was unbelievable. So what I do is kind of my version of that for Nexus, for my Nexus cartoon show. So it's anything but a copy, but it's an extrapolation of what I liked about the pose. And because this show is meant to be kind of a version of Space Ghost, I try to incorporate everything I can that excited me about Space Ghost into my show. And of course, I have, I got the Ray Blast in here. Ray 4, Ray 3. Guess what comes after 3, 2, and 1? And that's how you cycle a Ray Blast. And I learned that from still framing the show. Oh, and of course, not to be outdone, it's a reverse view of Fire 2. Cool, huh? Just going to recycle the same Ray Blast cycle, and it's going to look as cool as my favorite show. Oh, and there's the standard Space Ghost upshot. So I thought, oh, I got to do that too. So I must have done this 20 times, and I forgot I did it, but this is a standard shot. And what I do, if you'll notice on a lot of people doing cartoons, talent is not uniformly good. There are some guys that are fantastic. They're super artists. Normally they're the ones that came from Disney to migrate over to HB in the late 50s and early 60s. And I notice a lot of times on the mouths, on the characters, when they have an entire figure with the mouth moving. Some of these animators get sloppy and they askew the mouth, and it drives me nuts. So I'm making sure that I do all the mouth charts for my heads here, and I tell them, you know, what the expression is, what they're saying, ooh, ee, that kind of stuff. And I do all of these for every character that has a close-up, and that's a lot of characters, believe me. And so they're all lined up, ready to go, if and when I ever get my show. And, you know, I've been thinking a lot about this show lately, and this is how I do it. Nexus upshot, and then I kind of time it out there on the X sheet, the exposure sheet. It's been almost 40 years now, and I haven't got my show. And so I keep thinking, Dark Horse was trying to sell the show for a while, and that really did not work out for me. So if you want to hear some dirt on the situation here, which I'm happy to tell you about, these guys went about selling my show, and they never told me what happened. They would go to all the usual places. Can you imagine Nexus at the goddamn mouse? Are you kidding me? I would probably go insane in about count the minutes working for Disney in the way they do things over there. So no, I would never go to a place like that to sell Nexus. The place that the only one that's ever going to make this work with me is some independent guy who's independently mega rich and wants the same thing that I want. So he's the money guy, I'm the creative guy. Then we go about finding all the stuff that we need to make a show. What Dark Horse did when they were trying to sell it is they sent some flunky out to Flunky Land to talk to you know, the usual suspects. You know, we want to sell this show. What do you think? Well, they never told me what they were selling. They never told me how they were selling it. They never even told me if they were selling it. And it drove me nuts. And I have encountered this problem over and over and over. It's called, get this, lack of communication. Now, I don't know about most of you, but when people don't communicate something as critical as this about something that I, the co-creator, need to know about, in this case, the complete creator of the show, I kind of want to know what's going on behind closed doors. And I would bring this up to the suits at Dark Horse, and they would get pissed off at me. They would get mad because up until then, it was their domain to do this stuff, and no creator, God forbid, would ever get involved in finding out what's going on or being part of the process. Well, that's a bunch of horseshit. Horse doo-doo for the kids watching. So that's what I'm going to show you for right now. for the animation part of it. I'm always working on the show. I probably do 3, let's make this 5, 6 layouts a week, and then I animate them. I get my 12 field paper out, like this stuff. That's 12 field paper. And I just have so much fun just going to town, working on new ideas and layouts and poses. This is my lifeblood. And this is what I do when I'm not working on Nexus. I go over to the Doug Wiley animation board. Time for a drink. 2 waters. One yerbil. I feel like a new man. Is there anything else I'm supposed to do, Mr. Producer, before I get into this drawing right here? I'm told that you guys wait around all day for this drawing part, which is cool with me because that's kind of what I do. Flowhard, you have to get out of the way, or you're going to yell if I step over your feet. Okay, so we have the kid. That's the model. I wanted to have something that I work from so you can see how I worked, how I did it, how I worked from it, and how I interpreted it, and how I structured it out. So I'm actually going to do something different here. I'm going to start with the legs. Remember I was talking about legs last week? Like everyone starts with a head. Well, this is where everything starts, on the ground, for crying out loud. So why not start with where your foot is planted to show you how you're balanced before you get up to something as innocuous as the head. Of course, if you want to get ahead in life, that's the way to do it. That's one way to do it. So there's the hips. Hound dog, you need to get out of my way here, okay? So there's this is a straight line. See the straight line? Straight line? Yes, it's got a little muscle bump thing going on in there, but don't sweat that. Follow through, people. I love seeing people. And then this goes way up like this. This is a big, these are the rhythm lines that I'm going to be talking about in my book. And if you want to find out about rhythm lines, go to the Loomis books, because that's the guy you should be looking at here. He's the guy I looked at. Draw the torso shape, because this shape is always going to be in there no matter what view you look at it from. And you do this, and you look at the negative space in here. This is what the school taught me. See, line 1, line 2. It's a certain thickness, it's a certain length. Okay, so there's 1 to 2, 1 to 2. Do you guys get that without me having to explain it too much? Good, glad to hear it. Okay, so the hands, we know how complex hands are. So find a way to abbreviate them and still make them hands. The way to do that is to, I'm not supposed to be talking now, right? And aren't I supposed to be concentrating on the wonder of it all? Oh, well. There's the kid's head. And you can do these kind of lines, but then later on you have to come in and do the little things. The little things. So this torso shape is always going to be in there like that. And this muscle goes up like this. It's because it's stretched up to an insertion point up there. See, the dude knows his anatomy. I could have been a medical professional, but I chose not to. Then again, there's the money part. Okay, we don't want that head. I employ my handy kneaded eraser. It's a little too big. Now, before I keep talking and ruin this, I want to make sure that everything is proportioned when I'm done blocking this out. Because if this head is way too big compared to everything down here, well, she's going to have a big head. And the kid already has a big head, so I don't want to give her a bigger one. You know, I met this girl when she was 24. She's now 34. Does time fly or what? Okay. Center line. Move it over. Bosoms. Hips. Don't give them boy hips, for crying out loud, people. These are women here. They've got hips for a reason. And this, that leg should be drawn all the way down like that, okay? See how I'm using this right here? This is the way you're trained in art school. If you weren't trained in art school, you won't do it like this. You'll do it like this, like this. Okay, so where does this come down right here? So if I go like here, bring it down, that's okay. So I did a good job. Thank you, Steve. Welcome, Steve. Let's extend the leg a little bit here. It's a little too short. This position of the foot. Now remember, the foot is a foot. You can look at it this way, then it's a foot. This way, this way, this way, but it's still a foot. It hasn't changed. It just changes view. So if you think, sometimes when I'm drawing feet or something, I think about, the simple view when I'm drawing this a little more elaborate view right here. I mark these off so I can remember to put the sway in there. That sway is one of the reasons I'm doing this, because I want to show you the rhythm that comes about from drawing forms. Now, if you don't think the female form has more rhythms than the male, you are wrong. I've watched some of my I've had models over here, and sometimes it starts to rain, and I watch these girls. They move nothing like men. They move like gazelles, leaping over this and that. And once I started to take notice of it, I thought, oh my God! I mean, this is what separates them. Now I just gave the kid kind of fat thighs, and she's going to be mad at me, so I'm going to get rid of those. I'm going to move them in a little bit. See, instant repair, instant surgery on the keyed. So this is the way this contour moves, and this is the way this one moves, because they're two separate forms. Belly button goes about there. This is just the linear stage, guys, okay? And hopefully this is something you're paying attention to. I almost forgot. I was going to read something to you guys here while I'm doing this right here. Tell me if you've heard the lyrics from the song back in the 70s. I was told, Kiwi. I was told a million times about the troubles in my way, how I had to keep on trying to get better every day. If I climbed every mountain and rode a million miles, I'd still be where I started. I'd still be where I started. You smart guys out there will know exactly who sang that song. And there's something to that. I think it has to do with, in the music business, you are under so much scrutiny and so much pressure that is absolutely unnecessary. But if you're an executive, your job is to ruin people's lives as quickly as possible. Tell them what they have to do. Tell them they have to tour at least 363 days a year and make as much money for me as you can, so I can see the green fees keep being risen every year. So I need to make my share. Well, I tell you, why do you think suits get the rep that they have? It's anything but unwarranted. So watch out for these guys. So that song right there, it always made me laugh, because I knew back then. So I'm supposed to be concentrating. Why am I talking? You guys should not make me be talking right now. You told me not to do that, and I tried, but you kept making me talk. So remember, there's a line that goes down like this. And here's something else. It's always a big deal for me to go back to remember why these things work the way they work. Well, this is the teeth from the side. Here's the nose. The nose comes out, and there's this eye thing going back here, and there's the lids, and the jaw goes down. When I start thinking about those mechanical things, suddenly everything comes into focus for me about what I'm trying to draw, instead of just drawing things by rote, as I wrote. I'm actually thinking about the things underneath it. And that has done wonders for Mr. Humility's wondrous career. I remember when I would go to Stru's house, Drew Struson's house all the time. I would, most guys would always make appointments, right? I just go in and bust in. He'd look at me strange, and we'd go out to a studio, and I showed him my ears. I was doing this ear thing. They said, "Yeah, ears are good. Ears are good." But we all know that bad ears are the mark of being stoned as an artist. Who wants to get stoned? If you want to get stoned, do bad ears. See, the kid's still got some baby fat here. I kind of like that. And the neck goes over here, and I suppose I got to do the ear now. We always start with the big shape. Big shape, big shape. If you want to learn to draw ears, study ears. And there is absolutely no charge for that advice. But I think I think the proportions are pretty good here. I should be looking back at it like this. All right, I'll slim her hips down a little bit. I can hear you guys getting mad about that. We'll try to finish this up so we got a complete drawing. Okay, so there's a dark spot in here. And the kid's mouth is like that. Of course, she doesn't have an open mouth. I have to change it. Here comes the eraser. Here comes the needed eraser. So let me look carefully here at the kid's mouth. Okay. This is simply a matter of closing the mouth more. And I'll get what I want. See? No problemo. No charge. Nose. If you don't know the structure of a nose, good luck with drawing them. I talked to you about this last week, and why am I doing so much talking? I realized that if I'm drawing something and nothing's gelling like in the way it should, like when I put on that magic helmet from that Bones did in Star Trek, and suddenly became a genius. I'm very loath to stop everything and go back and draw the offending appendage. So later on, I'll go back when the crickets stop chirping, and bosoms have to have weight to them. No guy likes fake bosoms. So if I had a girl audience, I would charge them for that advice. So they have to have a sense of weight to them. Big, small, well, not small, but at some point they have to look like they're what they are, flesh. Here's the kid's rib cage right here. See, the overall thing is like this. It's like this right here. We all know how rib cages look, and that's what we're looking at with a kid here. And then there's this big opening and all this stuff. Shadows. See how I'm putting the shadows in? Actually, watch this right here. I'm going to get some really dark charcoal so we can actually see what I'm doing here. That's willow charcoal. Where's the dark stuff? I think, is this the dark stuff? Darker. Okay, so that's how I'm going to put on her hips. I know a lot of people that paint portraits. I would never do it. I'd go insane trying to please someone that says the noses are wrong all the time. But if I were to do it, and I've done my share of them, just because it comes up sometimes. You don't make them look like Hollywood royalty, but you don't make them look ugly either. You emphasize whatever they have that's a good quality. Even the most unattractive person probably has one quality if you look hard enough. So there's the basic shape of the toes. Kids' toes are kind of pointing out like this a little bit, so, you know, whatever. I'm only darkening this leg to separate from this leg back here. It's it's not true to life, but let's do the kid's hair. A lot of you guys have been asking me about hair, so I had to ask myself about hair. Steve, what are you going to do about all these people asking you to do hair? And my reply to myself was, okay, well, I better put a chapter about hair in the How to Draw the Figure book. So we got a bunch of cool stuff about hair in there. I was told a million times about the people in my way. I guess we'll keep her bra on. God. The kid's very sweaty right now. I remember this was, I don't know what year this was, probably about 5 years ago, and it was just sweltering out. And then it started to rain, and me and the kid got all wet. Well, the kid's always been all wet, and I've been just, practicing getting wet. So, okay, so let's just, just to wrap it up, we'll work on the face a little bit here. There's some, there's very interesting kid qualities here that I want to, they are there. The only highlights are right up here. They're way up high, so this must be high noon. High noon. Oh, okay. We wrote something on the tagline to get you to be really fascinated and tune in here about something I was going to mention, about something that I did once that I never want to do again. And it has to do with art, but it's actually not the subject of what I'm going to talk about was not about art. It was about karate. High karate. Like the aftershave from the 60s. I was in karate class. This is a lesson of the day here, guys. The philosophical hour, okay? And there was a guy we called Baby Huey. Big fat guy. He was the sensei's son. And he was a big fat guy, like a sumo, and he was an expert at foot sweeping. And when we would go up there to spar, he would come really close to sweeping me. In fact, I got so pissed off about it, I said, that son of a bitch is not going to sweep me this time. So I walked up there, and he tried. He was devastatingly good. And I got to thinking afterwards, after he didn't sweep me, what makes a guy be that good at something? How did he get to be from a lightweight white belt to a little kid crying down the block because somebody beat him up to what he is now? This gigantic fat kid with a lot of muscle who could sweep really well. And what I started to thinking about was he got there. He acquired that skill through practice, and it was the kind of practice. If I just start mindlessly and casually doodling, that's a nice relaxing thing to do. But if I'm doing bad hands, and I go back now that I have a real reason to focus on what I was doing wrong, or they weren't doing them as good as I wanted to, and needed to refine them better. That was an extra incentive to remember what I did with those hands, when I did that hand practice more, that I could use for the next hand that I drew in my comic book somewhere, because hands are everywhere. And so are feet and everything else under the sun. So that's what got me thinking about, how did a guy get that good? Well, in karate, he rose in the ranks with a lot of practice, a lot of diligent practice, a lot of awareness, and a lot of desire to not be bad. So that's how I tend to think about it sometimes. What's the best way to learn something? Well, the best way to learn something is when you have a reason to learn it. And I encounter this every day when I do my little warm-ups, or I do my little watercolor practice, like this stuff right here. That's a bonus for charge. This turned out great. This paper, this Winsor Newton watercolor rough cold press is wonderful paper for watercolor. And I pulled it off. Yay, I love it. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about a need to learn, why you have a need to learn, what you need to learn, and how you need to learn it best in the best way to keep it remembered in your head. That's what this lesson comes down to when I mentioned the baby Huey story. So this is kind of I think her head's a little big. I'll throw in a few more things just to give you guys your money's worth here. This is almost all in shadow right here, but there's different darknesses of shadow in there in the kid's face. We all love that special reflected light that we see under the chin right here. This is all the same value. Now you put something underneath that, and the only thing that's going to change is a very, very light spickling of a light going into it. But all this stuff doesn't change. Without the reflected light, it's uniform. That shadow part has no reason to change. And then if you put, you draw another head here. Okay, someone has a question. I'll be looking forward to talking to someone real soon. So here's the way the light works right here. There's all this darkness down here. So let's make this all the same shadow darkness right here, okay? Hold on to your question, someone, and anyone else who wants to be a someone. Well, we know what happens when you put, like a white object, or the dress is white or something, or it's orange. It's gonna bring that light up a little bit like that. Everyone loves the reflected light because it looks so pretty. That's my drawing for today. But before I go, I want to reinforce a few lines so I don't look like an amateur here. The kid's head's a little big, but she's always had a big head. The kid, call her the kid. Okay, but it looks like her. Okay, what does a someone have to say here?
Hey Steve, do you have any Neil Adams stories? Did you ever meet him?
Neil Adams. Yes, I met Neil Adams he was from the moment I met him, when Nexus Black and White #3 came out from Capitol, and I would go up to New York, and I made a point to see him. So after going to DC and Marvel, I would go to heavy metal, and then I would go to see Neil, wanting to make the most of this trip that I spent all my money on to get up there and try to get some critiques about how I was doing. Neil Adams, from the moment I met him, in that afternoon, sunny afternoon in New York, where I brought some of my early work up, was nothing but kind. He was always helpful. I've heard the stories about him that are not so good. I've had nothing but good stories with him. I loved Neil Adams. He was just a wonderful man. And I think one of the reasons he liked me is because I listened to him. He had a lot of stories to tell that the average human sapien would probably bypass because it was over their heads. Well, nothing is over the dude's head. So I think we always had a moment when we would sit down together at some point in some convention. Usually San Diego were usually the best times for me, just to bump into him, sit down, and listen to him tell me stories about art. He would tell me he would always tell me stories that were meant to that he learned from, and he would pass on those lessons to me. And I remember every single one of them. And I was always interested in hearing his. He had a lot of theories about things, and he had a lot of strong opinions about drawing and how you conducted yourself as a professional. He was nothing but nice, and I have every memory I ever had of Neil Adams was a wonderful one. And the last time I saw him, I thought I better get a picture with him, and within a year he was gone. So get those pictures, people, while there's still a chance. The guys that I grew up with are gone. They're all gone. But we're here for you guys that are in your 20s now. We are the generation that came after the Silver Age types, and we're all here. So take advantage of that. Take advantage of the things that are most beneficial to both of us. You support us. I give you lessons. When you write in, I list your comments. I talk about them. And the whole idea when we do things like the How to Draw the Figure Drawing book is to say, I put it like this. I said this for a long time. I think it's the best way to say it. The purpose of these books that I put out, or any book that happens to be good, is to take some of the pain of learning out of your life. I have a lot of thoughts about how to learn that are in direct contrast to the way other people teach you. They make you go through boring, repetitious things you care nothing about in the beginning. Well, I don't do that. I do it differently. I let you draw what you want to draw first, and then when you get in trouble, I'll tell you how to solve your problems. And it always comes back to fundamentals. And that's when we go back to the cube and all that boring stuff that people don't want to start learning right away. They want to do fun stuff. So that's going to be it for today's live stream, Steve Rude live stream. Hope you like the drawing demo I did. If you want to buy it, let me know. We'll sell it to you, okay? And then we can pay for groceries and maybe pay for the mortgage. Flowhard here says hi and goodbye. Flowy, do you want to say hi and goodbye? Okay, well, if you don't, I'm going to pick you up. And this is how we're going to say hi and goodbye. Stop struggling. Okay, this is hello and goodbye. That's Beagle for goodbye. We'll see you next week, folks. Bye-bye.